remark for today. Okay, and after that, anybody else, any changes? Oh, Councillor Barmayer, you had...
Yeah, and maybe we'll just put it under our council reports. We got the concept drawings back from the architect late yesterday.
Okay,
so present those and talk about them.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor B, you are on there. All right, and any other changes? All in favor? Going? Gone? Good, done. Public participation, I have the list. And so, it is in order Ruth, Stephanie, and Warren. So, Ruth, you're up for your 2 minutes of fame. Just move the furniture around as you like.
Good evening, Council. I'm here tonight to speak for 2 minutes about my concern around the seemingly little due diligence that has been undertaken before signing a license agreement with SBA Canada for the erection of this communications tower. I've had 2 rounds of correspondence with Tanya at Synergy Land Company and the copies to Council, and after that I've interviewed a member of the Infrastructure Committee to try and understand a little bit more, and a former Rogers employee that I know who was in on cell tower planning with the engineering department at Rogers. The responses from Tanya and the subsequent research still leaves me with these concerns. So I'm asking Council to seek more answers, do more diligence before proceeding. So my major points are that the first one is that cell providers have plans for where they'll invest to improve cell service. But there's an overarching assumption here that cell service is going to be improved in Lions Bay, but there's no evidence or no studies are being conducted to know where the problems of service lie, and whether any of the cell phone providers would in fact invest here to solve these, and whether these problems would in fact be solved. No studies are being conducted to determine the best location to ensure that 100% coverage. Alternative locations have, from what I can see, have not been considered. So if the priority is improving cell phone service, where is the best location to do that? Could the existing communications tower with BC Hydro at the station there by Public's Workyard be a possibility for a better place for improving cell coverage? Or what about improving cell coverage from the existing towers on Bowen Island? So, and the other point is that environmental studies, as far as I can see, there are no environmental studies that are going to be conducted on impacts to nearby wildlife, birds, or human health. In conclusion, if this is a money-making opportunity for Lions Bay, I think we're selling ourselves too short. If the objective is revenue, what research was conducted to ensure this is the best revenue that we can get for the use of this land? So I urge you to please do more due diligence, because I'm opposed to it right now.
Thank you very much. Ruth, do you have notes that we can cheat and copy, or you've got them all? Okay, thank you. Thanks very much, Ruth. And next up is Stephanie. And you too can move the furniture around if you like, and do as you will.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Councillor and Mayor, for inviting me here this evening. Basically, I'm here to talk about the potential opportunity to build a bike park for kids, for old kids, or the young at heart in Lions Bay. I've been thrown into the bike world by my kids. My son's an avid bike rider, and this would just bring the community together, an extra thing for kids to do rather than just a playground or the trails. Like, let's get them active, let's get them off their screens, let's build something the community can use together. It's a chance to boost their moods, get adventures, release stress, just bond with their friends, have a good day out bike riding. We live in the Sea to Sky corridor. Obviously mountain biking is a huge sport from Squamish, Whistler, Pemberton. I think Lions Bay could be the start of that, to move up the corridor. Start here, have a quick ride, and move on up. Potential locations for this, I've thought of a couple, but the most practical location is the top of Ocean View Road through the water, whatever the gate is, going up past close to the water tower, just before the first bend. There's an open rectangle area there that you wouldn't even need to clear any trees. It's already cleared. There's an aqua trailer, there was, for before the water tank tower builds. And basically, we just need to do some earth moving, build a few, basically just build a few bumps, do a turn and come back. It's a simple build. We're not asking for anything complicated. Using materials that are just even from the natural land, like we don't need anything very, very advanced. There could be a couple of different options, basic track, intermediate and advanced, or we just keep it at basic and maybe advanced. You're probably thinking insurance, oh my gosh, red flags, what are we gonna do about this? Well, this is something we'd have to look into. We'd have to have signs, rules, helmets are mandatory. Does that mean that I'm up?
Keep going.
Okay. Sorry, it's my first time doing this. We'd have to look at insurance. I called Bowen Island today. They've got a fantastic track over there. They've done it. Squamish has done it. Inter River in North Van has done it. All without any fencing or locked gates, so anyone can use it at any time, 24/7. And I think that would be something that I'd like Lions Bay to experience as well. So going back to insurance, when I called Bowen Island today, I spoke to their programs director and at their muni. And they basically said that their insurance policy has the bike park under it. So I don't know what the fees are, I have no idea what it is. She couldn't go into any detail, but it's a sub-part of their
Municipal
fees.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought of another option, the gravel pit, but realistically, access-wise isn't ideal. You have to access it by the highway, get access there, it's not really that fantastic. At least Ocean View is within the village. You don't have to get on the highway. Kids can park at the bottom, or the parents can park at the bottom, ride up, and you're like within 200 meters of starting to ride. There's no tree removal, simple construction. I'm heavily involved with the Squamish BMX and Sorka communities. I know a lot of people that build tracks. I'm sure they'd be willing to lend a hand just in a simple design. But like I said, it's not a challenging thing. We just need a few bumps, a turn, and a second straight, and we're done.
Already, I think we've got a bunch of folks coming up, so in brief, if I can capsule what you said. You've identified, in your view, the premium location.
Yes.
And premium location, other than it being extremely convenient, has got the lowest work requirement.
Correct.
To bring it up to snuff.
Yes.
You know of others who could assist in potential design. The insurance is the jump ball, got that one. And the last one would be, what would you anticipate usage would be?
I mean, it could be, you mean how many people would be using it, or just kids or who? Well, anyone. I mean, anyone can use it. We can have little balance bikes, 2-year-olds using it. There could be blocked off times. I know a couple of parks in Whistler have certain time blocks blocked off on the weekends. So say little kids can use it from 9 to 11 in the morning, and then bigger kids are allowed from 11 till 1, just so that the little kids aren't intimidated by the bigger dirt jumpers.
Good thing. These are, and just for me, because I don't know, these are unsupervised.
Completely unsupervised, correct.
Okay.
So on Bowen Island, they have a lot of signage, and there's, as the same as all the other tracks as well, there's mandatory equipment you need to have on, helmets, suggested elbow pads, knee pads, bike in good working order. And on top of that, there's just other safety requirements and a fence. Some of them have fences around it. Not proper fence, but logs, just showing
Visual. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And councillors, questions?
Yes.
I know where it is. It's right at the corner. Past the first tower. Before you know where the marshalling area was?
Or the tower up
No,
here?
sorry,
down low.
the one, the first
Down
one you pointed
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Right there. No.
Right here?
No.
Oh, there's no bend there.
Yeah, right there.
We're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
it's okay, maybe I'm.
There's a flat area
There's
here.
a flat area.
Kind of a flat area here.
That's where the contractor's marshalling area was, it's right there.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other question I had was, have you spoken to the school board at all?
I
about-
did this evening actually about the potential of putting it below the school. They're not exactly enthused about it at all, liability wise. And also it would be a ton more work to have earth moving down there. We need to take out a lot of trees, which I'm pretty sure wouldn't be very popular. A lot of other debris, and it's hard to haul that out because it's over a fence. onto
Yeah.
the field. It's not, the access isn't quite good. The parking would be fantastic because you're right there on the field, so you could just park there and take your bike across. But I talked to Mr. Campbell, the principal, and Ms. Mendez this evening, and they're not really in favor of the application.
Good. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I just have one
Oh,
question.
yeah, sorry.
Have you had all touch base with the North Shore Mountain Bike Association?
Not the North Shore Mountain.
Because I think they have a pretty big umbrella on the North Shore. I
Right.
just wonder if they might be open to our catchment and
They
maybe
could.
covering us.
Yeah, for sure.
From this perspective, just a thought, because they're already
Okay.
pretty prevalent on the North Shore.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
And next up is Warren.
Yeah, I just thought it was a presence mark there. I didn't know, I just came to observe, so I have nothing.
Sure.
Yeah, no.
Double final ask, you know, you
Yeah.
get an opportunity like this because we've got a lot of good stuff coming up here. Okay. Thank you very much. That closes this particular piece of the public participation. Thank you, Brett. And then CAO, this is obviously something in our little bylaw here that we need to announce this.
Yep.
Okay, so this is an opportunity for persons who consider they are affected by either of intermunicipal TNS business license agreement bylaw number 572, 2020, and intermunicipal TNS business license bylaw number 573, 2020. You have your opportunity now to make your representation to council. Thank you, gallery. If not, hold your peace forever and ever. And are we complied now?
For this particular opportunity.
Yes, thank you. Which then moves us up to item number 4, which is the public delegation request. And that's Charlie, that's you, and you've got 10 minutes. And let's, I think there's some logistics here. Let's get coordinated here.
I did actually request 15 minutes because the video itself is 10 minutes long.
10.
I requested 15 on the form.
On the form, it's requested 15. The video is 10 minutes and 50 seconds or something like
Okay.
that. I presume you want to say something
Yeah, very
before
quick,
or after?
like 1 minute. of
Okay,
speech.
fine. Let's go to the end. Is this the lights down or get a comfy theater sitting kind of thing or, okay.
Okay, so you know that I've been talking about the my safety concerns, the health and safety concerns about the cell tower and 5G. I'm going to let the former Microsoft Canada President Frank.
Hello, my name is
say-
Frank Clay, and I spent over
Good,
There you go.
okay.
40 years in the technology sector. My most recent position as a president of Microsoft Canada. In my career, I've seen the tremendous benefit that technology can provide. I've also seen the potential harm if technology is not implemented correctly. And I believe our current implementation of wireless technology is not safe. That's why I co-founded Canadians for Safe Technology and why I joined the Business Advisory Group of the Environmental Health Trust. I am especially concerned about our current implementation of 5G wireless technology. And the more research I do, the more experts I talk to, the more concerned I become. Now, there's no doubt that there are benefits such as autonomous vehicle and faster download speeds. At the same time, I think there is potential harm. I think it's important that we understand that 5G is not just an incremental number on our cell phones. In fact, over 230 scientists and researchers from 41 countries around the world have formally written to the United Nations, their member nations, and the World Health Organization, expressing their concern over the planned rollout of 5G technology, especially for vulnerable populations such as children, pregnant women, and the environmentally sensitive. They have been joined by state legislatures and federal regulators who have asked the FCC to provide evidence that there is no harm from the rollout of 5G technology. There is no doubt that the engineers and businesses and companies that roll out technology are well-meaning. However, their focus is on being first to market and getting new products into the market as efficiently and quickly as they can. I am not aware of any research or studies by my industry or related industry that deal at all with the health or safety effects of wireless technology. Here are some important facts about 5G. 5G technology has not been tested. I am not aware of a single study that shows that 5G technology is safe. 5G, as in all other wireless technology, gives off radio frequency radiation, which is absorbed in the human body and accumulates in the human body. One segment of 5G technology are millimeter waves. Millimeter waves are used by the US and Israeli government in their active denial systems, which are used for crowd control. And what they do is they provide a very painful reaction in the skin organs of the body. We have no idea what the impacts will be to human health if that kind of millimeter wave technology is used and we are exposed to it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are significant proven health effects from wireless technology and wireless devices. These include insomnia, headaches, fatigue, heart palpitations, all caused by exposure to wireless devices and the radiation from them. More serious symptoms and conditions include heart arrhythmia, infertility, tinnitus, numbness or tingling in the extremities, diabetes, cancer, and permanent DNA damage. Mental health is also impacted, with increased anxiety, depression, rises in ADHD and autism, mood swings, and emotional instability. In fact, all of these health factors and conditions have risen exponentially over the last 30 years, and hundreds of studies that show proof of biological harm from wireless devices. Most recently, in 2018, the National Institute of Health's National Toxicology Program released the findings of a 14-year, $25 million study that showed clear evidence of harm in terms of cancer and permanent DNA damage. This study, several months later, was verified by the prestigious Ramazzini Institute out of Italy, which found the same results. Now you may ask how a product that has this potential harm could ever be released to the market and to the public for public use. Well, the way the process works is the FCC regulates all wireless devices and products associated with them. Unfortunately, the FCC is made up of previous telecom executives, lawyers, and engineers. It does not have any scientists or doctors that you would expect to be involved with the regulation of potentially harmful products. In fact, the FCC guidelines are 20 years out of date without any major significant improvement. Countries such as China, Russia, Italy, and Switzerland have safety guidelines that are 100 times safer for their citizens. The FCC guidelines are based on small, short-term, infrequent exposure. They do not worry about the accumulated effects from multiple devices. They don't measure or monitor exposure 24 hours a day or 7 days a week. And they have no special consideration for children, pregnant women, or those who have shown environmentally sensitivities to wireless radiation. In addition to the concerns about the guidelines, there is actually no oversight provided by the FCC, and in fact the telecommunications industry is self-policing. So what we are left with is almost a Wild West scenario where the regulations and the guidelines are significantly lacking and the industry is left to its own accord to roll this technology out to the marketplace. In addition to the concerns about the FCC guidelines themselves, the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 prohibits any telecommunication company to be sued on the basis of the safety or health of their products. So in other words, there is no liability to the telecommunications industry of any of the impacts of their products. Just last week, the reinsurer Swiss Re came out with their annual forecast, and they specifically identified 5G technology as an upcoming insurable health concern globally over the next 3 years. There is also mounting evidence that the telecommunications industry knew about the potential impacts of RF radiation years ago. And in fact, we're starting to see some of the behavior from my industry similar to what the tobacco industry did over the last few decades. The telecommunications industry has over 500 lobbyists working in Congress and other areas of legislature protecting the industry. Together, all of these issues that I've referenced, plus the general lack of awareness in the general public, have led us to the situation where we are today. So where are we today? Today we currently have a significant amount of exposure in our homes, in our businesses, in our schools, and most public areas we go to. Cisco has announced and predicted by 2030 there will be over 500 billion wirelessly connected devices in the world. That works out to be almost 60 devices for every person on the planet. Many states and cities around the world are debating and passing legislation about the rollout of 5G technology. And in fact, what we're seeing in the US is at the federal and the state level, they're fast tracking some of this legislation to support the rollout of 5G infrastructure. Unfortunately, this legislation seems to be taking away all individual rights and the rights of local towns and counties and cities, and passing more power to the telecommunication companies. We believe this is a historic and precedent-setting power shift from the individual and state and local level over to an industry. In fact, many communities in the US and around the world are passing moratoriums preventing the rollout of 5G technology until it is proven safe. 5G will impact you personally. There are designs that show the requirement for small cell 5G antennas as close as every third house in the neighborhood, and could be as close as every 500 feet in public areas. The impact of that radiation at that level of frequency and intensity and power, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, is unprecedented and is not understood. I've spent the last 5 years of my life, I've had the opportunity to meet with experts on a worldwide basis who have spent their careers studying the impact of wireless radiation and devices. I've also had the opportunity to meet with some of the great minds in the technology sector who have helped create these tremendous products that we use in our lives and provide tremendous benefit to us. I am convinced that there are safer alternatives available so we can have the best of both worlds. Technology that can provide the tremendous benefits, but technology that is safe. There is no incentive or motivation to provide the research and the funding to look for safer alternatives. So that's why it's up to us to help encourage that investment. That can be by asking our legislators to pass legislation, encouraging the industry to do it, or it can be by us directly trying to advocate for change in the industry to allow them to become more responsible to provide safer technology that still provides tremendous benefit. We can't do this all on our own. We need your help. Here's what you can do. The most important thing is to get educated. We have provided a little bit of an overview and some of the scientific evidence that shows there's a potential harm. But now you have to take the initiative. There are some tremendous websites, Canadians for Safe Technology, the Environmental Health Trust, saferemr.com, and the Physicians for Safe Technology. There are also other resources that are listed at the end of this video. We encourage you to spread the word, share this information, share the video with your coworkers, with your family, with your friends.
Okay, thanks for watching, Frank. He was the former president of Microsoft Canada and co-founder of Canadians for Safe Technology. I've taken some of his more notable quotes. I've also fact-checked a lot of that video, and I've got his notable quotes here and the sources that we used. So this is a legitimate person with a good pedigree. Now, the one thing I did want to touch upon was the millimetre wave research. He mentioned millimetre wave, so I did a further bit of research regarding Frank's concern over the US military's use of millimetre waves as part of their active denial systems. Originally referred to as a heat ray, the system developed by Raytheon, a US defence contractor and used by the US military in Afghanistan, can reach up to a distance of 1,000 metres. That's pretty much all of Lions Bay. Raytheon also created a pared-down version called the Silent Guardian, which can reach 250 metres, of which my house is in that zone of the pared-down version of millimetre waves. Do we really want this technology in our backyards? Lions Bay should remain committed to a tower-free, radiation-free, millimetre wave-free environment for the health of its citizens, wildlife and environment. One more point I'd like to just bring out is way back in November, when we started asking for input, I did a cell phone coverage survey. I finally managed to digest all the input from that. I got 60 people to respond. I did want to send it out to the village as a whole in the weekly mail out, but that wasn't allowed for some reason. So I managed to get 60 people, and I've taken a lot of this data and I've kind of I've looked at it. I'm not going to tell you all of the findings. I have a copy for you. However, I will tell you the conclusion that I drew, which is, although there are no obvious trends relating to the call quality based on village location, which was the one pattern I hoped would become apparent, basically people on certain areas of the village not being able to get calls and other people who could, there are definitely some useful takeaways from this data. The first one is that FIDO appears highly rated in both the satisfied and excellent searches and either minimally or not at all in the dissatisfied and unusable search. Operation View Road residents appear in the excellent search but not the unusable search, prompting the question whether or not this would be the most successful placement of a tower to serve dissatisfied residents. A higher percentage of respondents have metal roofs and a poor reception in both dissatisfied and unusable searches compared to the opposite, and a higher percentage of respondents have a direct line of sight to Bowen Island and good reception in both the satisfied and excellent searches. So this kind of somewhat confirms my theory that a lot of the reason why people, throughout the village, people have different experiences with their cell phones. After talking to people, it seems that your provider is an important element, whether what the construction materials of your house are an element, and whether or not you have a good sight line to Bowen, which is where we currently get all our signals from. Leading me to ask the question whether or not actually the tower itself is in fact necessary, and actually a little bit more educating might actually do the trick.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the information.
Copy of all of that. There's only 2 copies.
Good. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Any questions?
Colleagues, this is next meeting's topic, so we're going to jump deep into the bath with cell towers next meeting.
You mentioned finance, was there any other sort of
It's all in there.
providers that it's in there as well?
Yeah, I broke down basically on percentages of how, I looked at the data in 4 different ways. Basically overall happiness, overall unhappiness, and then the very 2 extremes. And so just to explain this then.
The question was FIDO the only standout provider?
FIDO was the only one that didn't come in the dissatisfied section. It came very low in the dissatisfied search. So generally dissatisfied with the service. It didn't really appear on that at all. It was like 7%. I included the top 3. And then on the excellent service, it came second. Whereas Telus and Bell and Rogers seem to appear in all of the searches at one percentage or another. But the one thing that really struck me was that that particular provider didn't appear in one and did appear in the other. That was the big standout for me. Okay.
Thank you very much. That concludes that part.
Can we get a copy of that added to the paper?
Well, I guess this will probably be added to, have it as a
Correspondence on table item.
on table item connected to the
Tonight's
delegation presentation for tonight. I was going to ask how many, and we have percentages. I would suspect that with only 60 responses, I'd be curious to know how many people actually use FIDO. You have very few numbers. And anyways, we'll make sure this gets added.
Alrighty. Are you fine with that, Councillor Abbott? We're going to get to see it somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Which brings us to the review and approval of the minutes of the prior meeting, which was February 18th. I have a motion to receive the minutes. Thank you. Any changes? Additions, deletions? I had none. Anybody else? Councillor Barmayer?
Page 11 of 2058, There's a sentence near the bottom, discussion ensued on, and the next sentence reads, the expectation that the installation of an electric vehicle charging station will proceed only if it is fully funded by a grant. So I don't know where that expectation came from. I don't agree with it. So I don't know where that came from or where that statement came from.
The original resolutions that were passed by council last year.
So the view article talked about grants and the percentage of the motion itself.
The feedback that we got.
Okay, so the feedback, that I understand there was some feedback from outside, but the motion didn't include that language, and my view article certainly didn't.
The motion. Or the
Yeah, so we
resolution
can't make
coming,
that
but
claim is what I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure that that's what it was based upon.
Okay.
But I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
I don't remember offhand exactly what, there was like 4 parts to it, I think, if I remember correctly. So we'll go back and look that up. I think probably, I would think that this is, I wasn't there, so.
No, that's fine.
But I think the way the minutes work.
You're responding to it, right?
The way the minutes work is simply that it was brought up. It's not that this is correct or anything, it's just that there was a discussion on this point. That's all it means. It's
Well,
not
that's a
saying.
statement.
Hmm?
That's a statement.
Discussion ensued on, so there was an expectation raised by somebody that
No,
would say
no
that
one
meeting.
raised that expectation.
Actually, that was my understanding, that the resolution was to add 5,500 to the budget, and we talked about a 100% grant. And the feedback that I perceived we got from the public was, yes, proceed if it's 100%. That's not saying it has to be 100%. And I thought you lent yourself to that last time when you wanted to add to the budget 20,000 because the realization there probably were no 100% grant. So that's why we've added the supplementals, the 20,000 for our 25% share.
Yeah, I just don't know, I don't want this expectation to get concreted because that was not what we shared. The view article was specific about 75 to 100%, so that was already out there as a piece that we communicated. We all know that grants it's rarely 100%, they're typically 75%. The article I did previous was talking about infrastructure by the numbers, where we broke down how we fund projects. We talked about how grants make up a certain percentage. At no point did we indicate that most of these grants are 100%. So I just want to make sure that we don't get stuck on this idea that this is a 100% grant funded project.
Just, I think similar to what Pam was saying, there was discussion, and I think some of us, I did, when you started motivating for staff to do in kind,
Yeah.
and that could add up to 25%, was implying that there was like 100% funded if you took the in kind as free. That's what some people.
I'm trying to be perfectly transparent about it.
No, I'm saying you're trying.
What I'm saying by in-kind contribution is that it actually saves us money if we can leverage our internal workforce. So by no means am I trying to sneak in this idea that it's.
Well, I'm not suggesting sneaking. It was the suggestion was that there wasn't a budget allocation required to come from reserves to create the 25%. That's kind of what I
wasn't getting into the specifics with that. I'm just my concern is that this idea that the only way this project proceeds is with, and that there's an expectation that's 100% funded. I just want to dispel that.
I think the next statement does. It says, we've now said that we are going to put in a supplemental request to be discussed by council, 20,000 for our share.
Okay.
So that's why it arose. It was originally, for whatever reason, it was assumed that, because the resolution last year was just for 55,500.
Exactly.
And then
just to
getting the
get
grant.
us ready for the grant.
So what we're acknowledging now is it's highly unlikely, we haven't even seen a grant at all. It's
Exactly.
highly unlikely, so I think this is what this means.
Okay.
As a result, you then requested 20,000, we put into the supplementals for discussion and consideration by council. I mean, there's not $20,000 in the budget yet, it's for discussion,
Yeah.
whether or
Okay.
not.
So Councillor Barmier, we can leave it as is. Do you have a suggested change? And while you're noodling that, this is a budget item for discussion later on, so you may get what you want in the budget versus the wordsmithing here. Where do you want to go here?
Well, it's just a very strong statement.
If you'd like to
So
change-
I'm struggling with it a bit because it's almost like this is what if we write this down as public record as a statement, and I don't like how it reads.
So the word expectation has, has certain connotations. So what if we change that to read instead, the bullet would say, whether the installation of blah, 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 because that was the discussion that took place, but it takes away the word, the loaded word expectation.
Thank you.
Are you fine with that?
Yeah.
Thank you, good. Any other changes? Councillor Abbott?
Yeah.
Page
And
number?
I guess the public works manager to maybe correct me. Bottom of page 13, talking about staff accumulating hours to claim required certification. We discussed both the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant in that discussion. So is this the wastewater treatment plant that we're saying another member will become certified for in 2020?
Correct.
And the water treatment plant was further out because we were.
Because it takes more time.
Takes
There's
more
there's more of a requirement of time.
Okay, so this is an accurate statement for the wastewater treatment plant. We didn't record the discussion of the water treatment plant because that was in the slide. Okay, I'm fine with that.
You're good, no change. Anybody else? I'll move this baby along. Okay, all in favor with the sole amendment that's on this? All in favor? Yes, passed, thank you. Business arising from the minutes, which the one that I had, which was the Public Works Manager for the Village Update article on the Bayview project. I think you were going to write an article on it for, and this was Councillor Abbott's, where the lines were, and just when they find out we're digging through the property or something like that?
I had assumed that we would do that
We got the project or close to it?
if we got the project.
So
Or is that something you want?
a year and a half out?
No, it was if we got the project, I guess, yeah.
If we got the project, good, fine. I strike on that one then. Thank you. I had no other unfinished business arising. Anybody else? Other than if the Public Works Manager could tell me how he's going to keep us posted on the fire hydrant maintenance project.
So fire hydrant maintenance should be done in the spring when we do our flushing.
Okay,
So I can bring back,
that was the half-dinner thing.
yeah.
Ben, if you could bring that back, thank you very much for that offer. Anybody else with any business arising? Nope. Okay, thank you, we're past that. On to item 7, unfinished business. At the pesky mayor and the, see this guy speeding. I am mired in red tape. I write about it in the Village Update. Long story short, camera methodology is not going to happen. I'm pursuing sound abating pavement and other methodology that the province might suggest, so I'm trying to huddle those kittens and get somebody that can come forward and show that they represent the province with some kind of authority. My plan B is at the Mayor's Caucus. I have spoken to the Mayor of Squamish. They have come to the same conclusion that based on the camera photography not going to be an option. They also do not have incidents to the magnitude that we used to. Noise is their issue now too. Whistler does not have the incidents and noise is not an issue, so they don't think that they want to be the primary participant in this one at this moment. So I'll get a chance to talk to the mayors of the corridor at the Mayor's Caucus and the LGMA, so that's another piece. I also get to go to the Mayor's Forum, which will have the ADM to Minister Farnworth, and who represents the RCMP, and also the public safety aspect. So if we're not getting any satisfaction by the first or second week of May from either the working government or the heads of the departments, I'm going to throw in the towel. That was a joke. But it's just watching paint dry. Trust me on this one. Okay, that's more than you needed to know. I am doing a paragraph on this in the Village Update on Friday. Yes?
Just a little bit sort of on a spur, but I've been trying an experiment lately to do with your pavement and everything. I thought, what if Lions Bay residents decided to do no more than the speed limit? What impact would that have on the driving public? So I've been doing that for the last few months. And of course, I was like a speed bump on the highway as cars were piling up behind me, and then they get dirty looks as they go by. But I always stay in the right lane. And I'm actually getting some people following behind me with the left lane open now. And speeds, I have noticed, are coming down, or maybe they recognize the black cars and nemesis, I'm not sure.
Is it the little hand that says slow down that you?
You're the
Stuck to
pace
the
car,
road.
the Lions Way pace car?
Well, I was just
like
do
it.
that all the time.
Well, I'm making a point out of it, because I just keep telling myself, well, I'm usually in a hurry for something, but I thought, well, if I hurry through here, what do I save, 30 seconds?
There you go.
And I just thought if we could come up with a campaign of village residents, if you don't like the noise, slow down in here and encourage others to do so.
That's right.
Not a bad idea.
Irritate the
Lead
other
by
18,000
example.
people. All right, thank you very much, Councillor Payne. Okay, next up, CAO.
That one's done, I mean.
Yeah, I think
Did we
did it.
strike? Okay, that's a strike, number 107, thank you. Councillor Cunliffe, number 110, volunteer week, Dear to Our Hearts.
Everybody got their email, did they?
Yep. Good.
Didn't you get a pen?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe I just did the council and not the.
It said that you're
And not the
working,
people
it said that you're
budgeted.
working. Was there anything more than the one that says you're working on it?
Well, and just what the ideas were tossing around, so I
The
don't
hidden-
wanna
The hidden ideas.
blow the
Yeah.
surprise here, but it was more this evening that I received, so
Okay,
Yeah. music?
don't worry, we'll be in budget, under budget.
I- okay, that,
You'll let us in on it though?
I will.
okay, so let's let you do your penultimate pitch next meeting.
Sure.
Mayor
I'll
McLaughlin.
have a little bit more information.
Thank you very much. So I have got MP Weiler singing my article this week, so that's a strike. And we did do the thing for Jillian Smith, which is in correspondence, so that's a strike too. Which brings us to item B, the UNESCO Idris Shah Foundation World Tales short story. And from memory, we were going to bring this back. Because I think we left in some confusion on this. Is that your recollection?
Yeah, we're gonna bring it back
Former
to see,
CAO,
former acting CAO.
acting
We're gonna bring
CAO.
it back to see if Councillor Abbott, I'm not sure how we would have found time, was see if anybody was interested in
So-
being on the committee to judge.
Yes, there was two things we were going back for. We were going to bring it back and confirm that we were okay with the timing and we can still get done in time. And I think we've done that in the correspondence you've attached. Clearly we can still do it. And I was going to try to reach out to two people. And I've done that by a third party, one of whom is very interested and definitely wants to coordinate.
Awesome.
So
How many adjudicators do you think you have?
we have one confirmed, wasn't able to get hold of the second.
I think it's fair to say we're going to find two more. Probably.
I think so.
I think so. Let's take that as a given then, shall we?
Sure.
I think unless there's a resounding jumping up of people from their chairs, council does not want to judge the short stories. No, definitely not.
See myself.
All right, so
qualified in any-
then,
Sorry. Please.
I know a guy who's written a number of books, is living in Calvin Grove, I can give you his name after the meeting if you want.
that's
He mentioned it.
Dwyer,
Rod?
Dwyer?
Rod Baker.
Rod, Rod Baker.
Yeah.
Yep. The Arts Council knows him, he's done this presentation there, I've written
As
several
well
books.
as Karen,
Right.
Glenn and Karen.
Karen Dyer?
No, they do that, they were sponsored the series, the Arts Council series.
Her.
Karen, it'll come to me.
It'll come to me, she sponsors it's Glenn and Karen, and their last name is,
Are you talking about the dogs?
thank you,
The Dodds,
thank you.
Karen Dodd.
All right, and also you've got Robin Spano on your list.
So Robert Spencer's the one person
Good.
that we did manage to get hold of.
So even at the worst, we could, I mean, these guys are, you just down the street, so they can.
Yeah.
All right, can we leave this with you to assemble a recommended adjudication list for next meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
But we have to, what's the other actions we have to do? Because we have to get this out
We
now.
need to get it out on Friday.
Publicize it,
On
I guess.
Friday.
On Friday.
Yeah.
Council's also gonna have to think about a special meeting in order to.
We did discuss the possibility, everyone was agreeable to that last meeting.
So
Okay.
it have to be before May 15th to choose it.
All right, so to recap then, it goes out in the village update this week. Councilor Abbott's going to get the adjudicators lined up, put forward a recommendation for next meeting.
Are you gonna write something for the village update?
I certainly am not, but
All right,
We can,
someone to,
we can put together something short with a link to the information so that people can read what it's all about and choose whether or not they want to submit. right?
yeah, but I was going to see some, probably wants to actually write something catchy to.
Yeah.
good.
Well, now you're forcing me to be catchy.
Well, all right, and let's say thank you and welcome home, Councilor Abbott, for taking the responsibility for that. All right, thank you. So it's a split responsibility between Councilor Abbott and the village coming together next council meeting. Thank you. Staff reports, number 8. CFO, who doesn't like the remuneration report?
This is the, further to our council remuneration bylaw. Council is to get a raise every year equal to the prior year's increase in the CPI index. So the calculation this year is 2.34%. So that would go through on the next pay, end of March, and it will be retroactive to January 1st. And then I just have the numbers down here. It's a $377 increase in the mayor's salary and a $188 increase in the councillor salaries.
Good, I think this is pretty straightforward, so I'll put forward a motion to receive. Secondary, any discussion? There being none, call a motion to receive. Thank you. And which brings us up to page 31 of 158, which is the 2020 preliminary budget. Before the CFO starts, I would highlight that there are some minor CapEx figures missing on this. I know they're minor, so we'll just put that to the side for now. CFO and I kind of talked about this, just so that we can get to the key piece. We'll have the CFO go up first. She's going to lead into the Public Works Manager, who has some items to weigh in on. And then when they're done, I'll weigh in myself, and then we'll go to discussion. Thank you.
So this is an update of the budget you saw last meeting. The most significant change is I put through a preliminary tax increase of 2% as requested by council, and then a 10% infrastructure levy on top of that tax. And there's an additional attachment, which is the infrastructure master plan capital project list, which the Public Works Manager will be speaking to. It's essentially an update of the projects that are in the and which ones are eligible for grants, which ones were in our loan authorization bylaw. And I see that piece as it's a lot to absorb. I think you should all have in your binder sort of a bigger one that you can actually read as opposed to the one that was in the package. And it's a lot to absorb, but my hope is we look at it, ask any questions about it, and then discuss it again at the next meeting. That would sort of be the last meeting where we're discussing the budget and agreeing to the tax rate. Because the meeting after that, we'll be doing 2 readings of the budget bylaw. So again, the operating is pretty much unchanged, other than I now have the tax increase in there. And then the supplementals, what we did is after we looked at the infrastructure master plan and the update, there were some projects from there that were indicated as priorities for 2020 that had been added to this. And the hope is, again, we would review this and just discuss it. There's just a couple of things I wanted to point out on page 46. We have the walkway to Lions Bay Beach Park. This would actually be, I wanted it on here because it's not on the infrastructure, the INF list, but if this was a project council wanted to go ahead with, it would be a 2021 project. So it wouldn't be included in this year's budget, and that would give us more time to get additional information. And on the bottom of page 45, we've added, we talked about the ocean view drainage, having to do some tender drawings if that was a project council wanted to go ahead with. And then we've also added survey and design for Upper Bayview. So to me, this is an either or, like through discussion tonight and possibly at the next meeting, we would determine which one of those projects we thought would be better to go ahead with, and the Public Works Manager will speak to this as well. So there would be a few tweaks to this list. So one of these would be removed and be done in another year. And as I said, the Lions Bay Avenue bus stop. So this all has impacts on the total down at the bottom. And that was all I really had. But now I can speak to the if list and then we can open for any questions.
So basically, the large spreadsheet that you have is the capital project list from the infrastructure master plan that was completed in 2016. The first 18 projects have been dealt with in some way, shape, or form, either by completing them, abandoning them, or deferring them to 2065. The next section consists of 3 projects in blue. Those projects are ongoing, and staff are currently working on them. The project in red on page 2, the construction of the galvanized drain replacement road repair on Bayview, that is the project that we recently just applied a grant for. The projects in gray are the ones that are on your on the table for discussion for the 2020 budget for funding. Ocean View drainage is on there. However, I believe that the Upper Bayview Road is a higher priority than the drainage on Ocean View. That's staff's opinion. It's up to council to make a decision on which one they'd like to go for. The projects below that in purple are the 5-year and beyond projects. And as the CFO has said, I've listed 2 tables at the end, 2 columns at the end that talk about whether or not they're the possibility of grant funding, or and whether or not they were part of the loan authorization bylaw that we could draw for. That's pretty much it.
And I was just going to add about the Ocean View. So the Ocean View is a project we've identified would be eligible for a grant, and we would think of the next ICIP offering. We're not sure when that's coming. Whereas the Bayview, which has been identified, we feel is a higher priority, also would not be eligible for a grant. So that was another reason with the timing. We thought we just, that would be a good project to hold for the next grant offerings. Like I said, we have no idea when they're coming, but at the pace they're going, it would probably be at least 6 months before the next offering would come out. But we thought that Ocean View would be a good, something good to apply for that. It's not the only idea we have, but so that sort of lent itself as well to setting the Bayview as the priority, doing the drawings for those this year.
To about Upper Bayview.
Upper Bayview, yes.
So Upper Bayview is not eligible for a grant?
No.
But Ocean View is.
Correct.
And the reason for that, Ryan, is because
So the green component of the ICIP grant talks about treatment of stormwater before it enters a water body. So the Ocean View, because it's option 1 and it terminates in Alberta Creek, we could put in a stormwater interceptor similar to what we've got proposed for the Bayview project. So it would qualify.
So it could settle before it hits the RB?
Yeah, and oil grid separation as well, yeah. Yeah.
and the engineered drawings for that project would also be eligible for the grant funding. So that also suggests, just push that one to the next fiscal year so that it would be our next, suggested that it's our next grant project.
What,
Maybe.
Possibly. Well, yeah, you
Maybe
know.
a few.
what are the issues on Upper Bayview from memory that drive around I don't recall Upper Boundary. In my reflection of driving on that road is certainly not one of the most rutted or bad roads in the village.
It's pretty bad, but the primary driver is the asbestos cement water main.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's the water mains issue.
correct, yeah. Typically, in order of priority, civil construction municipalities deal with asbestos cement water mains as a top priority, cast iron as the second priority, and then age of ductile.
Now, how many other AC water mains do we have?
That's it.
That's it? Now, AC water mains are a risk just because of the asbestos and perceived, not perceived.
There's no health impacts
No,
for the
there's-
asbestos.
because it's just-
No, it's in terms of, from a WCB perspective, working on asbestos cement water mains causes problems for workers. The other issue is the longevity and the strength, the tensile strength of the asbestos. We've already had one break on Upper Bayview. It's top priority from staff for replacement.
You won't have to work on it in an emergency.
No, we can't, yeah, I mean, you can't put a Robar clamp, you can't put any repair clamps on it, it's very difficult to work on.
The ones that we talked about doing on Creekview Place, and was there one other, is that asbestos too, or is that?
No, Creekview Place is cast iron.
Okay.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Public Works Manager.
Sorry, I was going to make another comment with respect to the 5-year plan projects. I kind of down circled the ones that are both possible grant funded and non-authorization funded. And you'll see near the bottom of the page on that section, we've got PRVs. And when we first put in for the CWWF grants, when they came out, in 2016. We put in actually 2 applications. One was for the Harvey tank replacement and associated improvements, and the other was for replacing 13 PRVs. They were deemed high priority, and it's a fairly big ticket item. It's an operational issue in terms of WCB requirements for working in them and on them. And so that's one that we should keep an eye on as well in terms of priorities, you know, that versus Ocean View, for example, is something that, you know, we would have to take a good hard look at in terms of when the next grant opportunity comes out, what does it look like, what's the best chance for success, but that's another high priority item.
Thank you very much, CAO. And Carla, I hope I'm speaking loudly and slowly enough for you. Yes, good.
Yeah.
All right, so for my counselors, I'll speak even slower here. I'll drive you to where I would like to go, and then let's have a discussion on what everybody thinks on that. So I'll go through the pages as I'm going through this. So the big number is on page 48 of 158. And it's the $633,000, which is a big glaring ask for everything except for the 3 items that are marked TBD. Just above that, although I see 1, 2, 3, 4 items actually. So my proposal would be to take those 4 items and put that off and not include it as part of this year. So that would be part 1 of my thesis. The other one that is missing on this is the Infrastructure Committee's recommendation on the Harvey tank upgrade relative to the lead.
Pardon the interruption, but we talked at the Infrastructure Committee about waiting until the revised provincial guidelines on lead and corrosion came out, and Vancouver Coastal Health made their decision before we made a decision.
I thought we had agreed that we would bring it to budget chat to my colleagues. Do you recall this, either or? I thought it was coming to budget.
No, I thought that the thing was, it's still a little bit up in the air, because province, or BCH, they don't know what they're doing.
Well, there was that plus the quote for the, okay. All right, well, I tell you what, my fear, this is just me talking, is going back to the IC committee next meeting that we have, and they have the same view that I originally did. We were putting on another budget, because I don't want to eat crow. So I tell you what.
But in terms of priorities,
It probably is not on the page, given the other things here. So I'm just going to mention that, because it's not on here, I'm not going to, but I'd like some clarification on that for the next meeting, if that's fine. So we'll put that one away. My next piece is, and this is on page 45, 168, and again, it's the $633,000 of requests. And if I've got this right, Public Works Manager is, because of the priority of Bayview, is striking their road drainage for Ocean View. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that 633 goes down 74. So it's a lesser number, okay, so,
And then the walkway lines for Beach Park would be a 2021 project.
okay.
It's 50,500.
Mine has TBD beside that.
The walkway to lines
Oh,
for Beach
hang on,
Park.
which page? Oh, the,
46.
hang on, there we go. Right.
46.
Yep, right there. Okay, so I'm ultimately, then,
It brings it down to 508.
508's the net, okay, so we've winnowed the 633 down to 508, thank you, CFO. And I think, and I'll go to the EV station here, I would propose to leave this on here, and this gets back to Councillor Barmier's earlier comment on the verbatim of the minutes. And this project has been kind of coming along month over month, and I think the premise was 100% financing, but I don't really know for 100% fact. And we did do some public feedback, and it was not entirely supportive. I propose to leave the 20,000 in here for the time being, and we get the grants, find out what the true costs are and what the op costs are. So I think we keep the thing in place. We're not, where I'm going to go with this, we're not taxing for the money, so I'm fine with leaving it as a place mark. And I'm sure Councillor Barmier agrees with me. So we're down to the 508, and my proposal is that short of some fine tuning of this number between now and I presume the next meeting, CFO, when we make the yes and no on who's going to make the cut or not, my proposal is that we write the check out of our unrestricted surplus, which is right there. And I believe that on three fronts. One, I think staff has done an outstanding job of assembling this list. I like the projects that we can physically get going to right now. I like the planning stage stuff, and I like where it's going to go in terms of the infrastructure master plan priorities and the good work that's been done so far. So by using our own cash that's unrestricted, I think we push ourselves ahead a very strong year and probably into the next year as well. And I'm sure the works manager, well, he would love that everybody agreed with that. He knows it's going to be an awful lot of work because this is substantially 2 years worth of projects in one. And with that, I will put it up for discussion. Shall we, are you rushing up here?
He's on
All right,
fire,
good.
he's on fire.
All right, do you want to go first or do you want to
Sure, I'll go by then.
go? Okay,
No, I'll go first.
let's go clockwise. Councillor Bain.
I've got anything to belly ache at all about. I quite like what I hear. How's that for a stunner?
Good. Then silence is golden. Councillor Cunliffe.
Yeah, I like the idea of an actual sidewalk down to the beach, but if there is possible transit grant funding, that's even better.
That is a done deal.
Wonderful. Okay, but really, no, I've got to you, Councillor Allen.
So there were three we're going to discuss in closed. I'm not sure what. But why don't we discuss it in closed for the first? On Baby Road, Drainage, London Beach Park, and 3 PRVs.
I think those are substantially just the numbers which the CAO has advised we don't want to take public.
Okay. So my questions on those is, maybe that's what we're going to discuss. So there's the way this looks is if it looks as if those don't cost us anything. They do. There's a cost associated to each of those needs to be funded somewhere.
Yeah.
Be it financing a loan or whatever it is. But we don't typically add that to the list to increase the total.
No, that's already in the operating budget.
This is already in the operating budget.
It's already in.
So all of those would be already covered in the operating budget. Okay. Cost of borrowing, etc.
But what about the beach parks,
that-
off from reserves?
Let's see, again with the, well, actually, we've already committed to that.
But no, just in terms of the loans, like the cost of the
Yeah.
loans, you are correct, that would be an operating expense. And those already are in the budget because,
Okay.
and the other one is, sorry, it's just a draw from reserves, so that's not really, I mean, we're
None of
decreasing
them
our
are-
reserves.
No,
None of them were this.
they're not there. Councillor Ravitch, keep going.
Okay. On the ocean view drainage, in last meeting, we said, and I know we decided to delay it, but we said we would only fund the design costs when we agreed the capex cost was acceptable. So we said we'd only go ahead and engineer it if we knew we were going to approve the capex budget that year. My question is, to Upperview drainage, Upperview Bay, I know you understand this about the water mains. I agree it's priority, so I'm not suggesting it gets delayed here, but should we not, do we understand the capex before we go ahead and do this? What is the capex we committed to by spending $90,000 in the design? Do we have that number?
The CapEx is approximately 2 million.
2 million.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a major project.
Yes.
So the thesis on this one, Public Works Manager, is that when you do the bird in hand that is the most likely to occur first, and just simply not spend the working stuff for Ocean View at this time.
Ocean View is, has the potential to be grant funded, both the design and the implementation.
So we shouldn't be spending the money on the design work.
So, yeah, correct.
So that's the key piece here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on Upper Bayview, so if we've got a $2 million capex, which we're now saying could happen in 2021, is that what we're suggesting?
It depends on whether or not council wants to draw from our reserves.
Well, it's also, actually, that project will qualify for loan authorization funding.
Correct.
No, not
But-
that.
but-
But it would be,
but it would be-
after it.
The
It would be-
caveat on that is that, council's got the same hurdle that we
Of the
we've
50%.
communicated to the public about before, is that,
Yeah.
the 50% minimum grant funding on anything used for the loan authorization.
Yeah.
So council would have to come to grips with that issue again and decide one way or the other. Or, obviously the alternative is to take from reserves, assuming there's sufficient reserves.
So I'd like, before we go spend 90K on the design, I'd like to know how we're going to execute the project, or what options we have to execute the project. I'm not suggesting we're not going to do this design, but let's go in eyes wide open, because if we don't have an execution plan, we shouldn't spend the $90,000. I'm suggesting we have to find an execution plan, not the other way around. But let's at least understand how we would finance $2 million before we spend 90K. Fair point.
And I think that will, maybe getting ahead of myself, but,
That's quite a bit
this
ahead
was-
of ourselves.
well, I was going to conclude with this, but we are starting to look, as staff wanted to and council wanted to, really taking a close look at the 5-year plan and the projects we want to do. The last few 5-year plans that I've done, we thought the grants would be coming more readily than they were. So all of these projects have been in the 5-year plan, but they've been grant funded. And the reality is, the grants, we're not getting the grants, they're coming slower. So we have to kind of
And
change
this
the
one
way
wouldn't
we
even
think.
apply for the
Exactly.
grant. So
And
it's
we
quite
always-
clear we
yeah.
need to have an execution plan in
That's right.
mind
That's right.
before we do this.
And I think what we do is, we do need to get the 5-year plan done for this year. I could put it in as a placeholder, just sort of the dollar value, because these projects also have to be in the 5-year plan if grants become available, because I have to show, it's like a catch-22, I have to show that we budgeted for our share. And then I see this being discussed at the strategic planning session in the fall. Actually going through this list, prioritizing council, giving direction in terms of what is the next project that we should apply for with the grant. So we have that direction, and then that will feed into the 5-year plan for the following year, because we do start to have to getting answers for that in terms of, we won't have enough reserves to do all of our projects, we won't have enough borrowing, so we do have to start prioritizing them and sort of getting a roadmap for council, but also for staff. So, yeah, so that we're sort of on the same page, that we're having to make tougher and tougher decisions. Like, it looked quite rosy a few years ago in terms of these grants coming out, and they're really slowing down in British Columbia. We're not even sure when the next grant offering is going to be. The grant that we just applied for, we're told we won't hear until early 2021, if we even get it. So it's taking about a year to make a decision.
It's very-
And, yeah.
Yeah.
The joint, yes. So, yeah, so I think we are on the same page, and I think we're seeing a change in the way we're going to be budgeting. It's going to be more specific. And like I said, I see this playing a key role in our strategic planning session, actually getting into the nitty-gritty and determining what projects council would like to see us go ahead with and rank them, because choices will have to be made. Unfortunately, we can't do all of them until reserves start being built up again.
So to that point, then the 90 stays on, or the 90 goes away? I believe it stays on.
Look, could stay on, because depending on the strategic planning and,
Okay. So you're place marking, and we're not spending
Yeah.
money, so
right.
are you fine with that, Councillor Emmett?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Then if I flip over to page 46. So the first one, View Place. So this is work that's actually going to be done by staff. And then I'm assuming the $65,000 is for some materials.
Materials and paving.
Materials and paper.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's no design or anything involved in that one.
There is a quick water main drawing that we'll do in-house.
Okay. The next one is a main on the inlet outlet of a tank. That also says constructed by staff, but that $20,000 is for design.
No, that's for materials.
So the description is survey, design, and construction.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
it's the same idea, so that's just
Yeah, the
materials.
description is pulled right out of the intern, so you
Okay.
can relate to the project.
Sure. Okay, so these are two projects that you can do
Internal.
internally, and these are just materials costs. Does that pretty much cap out the additional effort for your workshop for the year?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And we'll take it with those of what you believe are two best biggest priorities.
Yeah. Yeah, extremely.
Okay,
Right.
and then the bridge repairs, so what is $99,500 buy some bridge repairs?
So the infrastructure master plan has a list of repairs that are required for the 1 to 3 year time frame.
So, I do believe, my question again is once again, same as the other thing. Is $99,500 CapEx, is it execution, is it design, is it a
It's
combination?
execution, it'll go out to contract.
We'll go out to contract.
Yeah.
So
For
it's already spec'd and
physical repairs to the bridges.
Okay. So it's already spec'd out, there's no engineering.
No engineering, no design required.
The 2016 estimate, right?
Correct, yeah, but I used the conservative number from the IMP, the 2018 ISL bridge inspection report had a lower value for this work, so I'm confident we can do it for this.
So that's an RFP that's going out
It will go, yes.
soon.
Yeah, I don't know about soon, but it'll go out.
This year. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw out something on the next one that's probably going to get people's eyebrows raised. And here's the lure of the grant. I get it if someone's giving you $200,000 over a $250,000 project. Sounds like a bargain. But it is spending $50,000 on a walkway to Lions Bay Beach Park a priority for this village. I think there's as a taxpayer, I'm kind of pissed that someone wants to throw away $200,000 of my tax money. It's something that maybe is not critical, but is it really crucial for us to go after that money and spend $50,000? Do we need it? Something else to maintain? We're not even maintaining the stuff that we've got. Talk about asset management, and now we're adding, to my mind, something that would be it's a nice to have going into.
So, just a couple of comments. One is, TransLink's taking that tax money from you, whether you like it or not. If we don't spend it, they'll give it to somebody else. So it's...
Yeah, well, I think so. Somebody else should be just as peeved as I am. But anyway, we'll deal with that at a different level when the voting booth, I guess.
The other thing is, these are really just ballpark numbers. Could be higher, could be lower. My suggestion would be that it could be a lot lower. What we have is we've got a very narrow, steep, twisting, unsafe road that half the village walks down to the beach on. It's not a good situation. A lot of them are pushing buggies and so forth. We should have a decent pathway. We should have means of accessing it from a couple of different directions, including the pathway that runs below the highway from Lions Bay Avenue to the works yard, so that branch off of that and cut down through the Modi property at the cul-de-sac at Southview and come on to it that way as well. But it's, it's a project that could contribute greatly to safe access to and from the waterfront on Lions Bay Avenue. Those are the only two things I just thought I'd comment on. And it's, for what it's worth, we put this, we scrambled to put this in with TransLink in order to preserve the opportunity to investigate it further. So we're not green-lighting anything here. What we're doing is simply preserving the opportunity to investigate this further and see what, at the end of the day, what we could come up with and what it will cost us, which will be a proportion, 25%, whatever it is.
Yeah, and next year it'll have rebudgeted from 2020 in brackets behind it, and so therefore we won't think about it critically at that point, and
It won't be
rebudgeted.
It won't be rebudgeted.
Yeah, it's not, I've removed it from the budget. Sorry, that's what I didn't explain it very well. I think some councillors haven't even seen this. This was actually first mentioned, I believe, by the prior council. So I just wanted to identify it, but it actually is what would potentially be a 2021 project. So when I say we'll look at this again with all of the projects at the strategic planning, this would be one of the 21 projects that would be added to it, and then you look at it in context of everything else. But we're not taxing or even drawing from reserves the 50,000 this year. So that's why that number has lowered. I've removed this and I've removed Ocean View.
Particularly reading Ocean View and pick up on that. Is that
Yeah. So, and that was why, but I was trying to find the best way for council to see it, because it has been discussed previously, and we have tried to secure the funding in kind of a notional way, as the CAO has said, but I'll now remove this, and it will be a 2021 project. A potential 2021 project for discussion with next year's budget. And then by then we might have firmer numbers. And,
So the 633 will, with these two items that the CFO's done, is winnow it down to 508.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Are you good, Councillor Evan?
Yeah, it stays in the same category, but that's rebudgeted from previous.
All right, so you know that as with the EV station, everybody's getting another kick at this, and we're just making allocations. Plus, there's a whole lot of real stuff here too, am I saying? Councillor Barmeyer, you get last call.
Yeah, I just had a few, in terms of the EV station, you know, appreciate the support from your mayor on. I don't know that this is really gonna make the 2020 cut realistically with where we are now and with when the grant applications might come out. I'm not saying we should budget for it, but it's unlikely that we'll get it built this year. I think that we're already pushing into 2021 with actual construction start. So I don't know that we would spend this, but budgeting for it makes sense to show that we have it budgeted so that we can win the grant. I don't think it'll actually get spent this year. That's just my take on that. I was wondering about this emergency generator. We're already budgeting, you know, what is it, $65,000? Has any design been done at all?
Okay, let's get those barbecue marks out one more time.
No, I know, but it just, because it's like we're throwing these numbers around 65 grand for what? Do we have a quote or do we?
We have an AECom engineering report that identifies what size generator we need.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's where that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, Councillor Abbott is going to review that with an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
I was. You were going to send it to me, you told me
I
you
did.
did.
Yeah.
I was hoping you would say that.
Do you want me to send it again?
No, I'll just lose it twice, then I'll go look for it.
Okay.
Now that you know it's in your sphere, there you go, go look for it. Okay, so,
And then the other one
Glad you
was
responded
the paving, road paving.
mhm.
Because we had previously budgeted for this and then not spent it. Now we're asking for more money. I'm just wondering if,
The previous budget, as I explained last time, it's a little unusual. We budgeted this for 10 and long before my time, 10
Okay.
and 12 years ago. There was a history of just putting money into roads and we didn't do it and, you know, just no blame, just
Yeah.
it's part of the reason the roads are in the state. So this is a little unusual, like, they requested 125 and then it was brought to my attention by employees who have been here longer than I have that, you know, in our surplus, we have quite a bit of money historically for road paving. We stopped doing it 5 or 6 years ago. So I actually went back to as far as I could in our system to 2008 to see what we budgeted and what we actually spent, and there was 88,000, so.
Had I known, it would have been spent.
okay, fair enough. So that's why this just
So-
felt a bit odd.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a little bit, like it's legitimate, it's in the surplus. What I'm doing is rather than having this lump sum of surplus, I've tried to, I'm going back historically and trying to put it into little columns of what it was taxed for. You don't have to use it for that, but since the request was made, it seems appropriate, we should pull it out.
Previous
88 grand
managers,
have been sitting around for 12 years, not spent, basically budgeted and never spent.
Well, it's just part of our surplus. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to have a surplus for emergencies, and as part of our surplus, it had previously been taxed for roads. And then the plan is we would like, you know, you'll see it in the 5-year plan, 125,000 a year for the next 3 years to actually catch up with the road paving. So in the next 2 years, there'll be no surplus to draw from. It'll just be a flat 125,000 request, a budget request.
This is for patches and repairs.
yeah, some of it's identified in the infrastructure master plan, and some of it is just from deterioration over the last few years.
Is it appropriate to have a similar, probably smaller number to start dealing with ditches, drainage?
I have an item of 25,000 to start
But in
doing
culverts, isn't it?
culverts, yeah,
So that's the same thing. It's ditch repair as well as
Yeah.
culverts. Okay.
yeah.
One more. The fire hall expansion, just again, because of where we are now, by the time we approve the budget, I just wonder if this should just be for the design and the permit drawings piece for this year and
Yes, we took here, I did talk, was able to talk to the fire chief about this, and, you know, we might be able to lower the 50. The idea of doing the design, actually getting the building permit, and then actually going out and getting quotes. And the reason, bumped it up a bit, apparently there's some opportunity, if they get the design done quickly and the building permit, they like to have a bit of a budget because they seem to be able to find good deals on things. A lot of firefighters
so
work
material budget.
for, so some of it would be to actually start the construction.
Okay.
It's a bit unusual to do it that way, but there seem to be some really good opportunities with the current staff he has now. He has electricians, he has plumbers.
Beautiful.
And
That's
the
a
work
great
site,
idea.
they're currently on a work site now where they're practically giving some material away. So I wanted to get the approval so he could start buying that. But the idea is that after they do the design and get the building permit, then they would actually go out and we'd have a concrete number which council could look at, and if it was too high, we could maybe amend certain things. Because the building inspector has also done a condition assessment for us of the clad, and he has some recommendations like painting and a few things, so we're thinking we can incorporate all that at the same time, just to extend the life of the clad building. So I know it's a bit of a nebulous number, but since we're not actually taxing from it, it's a draw from reserve, I just wanted to have something there so that we could take advantage of the opportunities for some savings to give him a bit of a budget to start working on it. But we would come back to council after the building permit was issued and the quotes to actually look at what, the full budget was, and council could determine whether or not they wanted to go ahead.
Good. Yep.
Further to Councillor Parmeyer's point about timing and on the EV charging station, the 20,000, like for the grant application, if we showed that 20,000 being in the 2021 plan, is that sufficient for the grant application?
Well, I think in this case, even though we'd still put it into the 2020 plan, like we're not taxing for it, so I would still show it.
Okay.
And I haven't actually seen these grants. I know the ICIP grants where you're asking for, millions or $1 million, $2 million. You are required to show like a loan authorization bylaw to see that you have the borrowing, show them what's in your reserves. With grants like this, some of the smaller grants, and a grant like this, they may not require that, but at least it would be there. We just have to basically, they usually want some evidence or acknowledgement by council. Sometimes it's just a council resolution, council saying, yes, we will cover our 20,000 or our share. But it probably would be beneficial to have it in the 2020, because I would expect it with the anticipations we would still submit our grant application in 2020. When they come in.
We're supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Alrighty then, so unless somebody's shooting their hand up with another question, I'll do the close on this one.
Sorry, can I
That
just
would be a
add
hand shooting up.
one thing? Well, you had asked the Public Works Manager to talk about the beach renovation project as item 8, but now might be a good time with the numbers in front of us to talk
Okay.
about it,
So
or at least part of it,
Good.
and he could add something.
I like that curveball to your colleague. It gives him another 10 seconds to think about the
No,
answer.
I was actually going to answer it.
Because, okay, so
If we,
what is Plan B should the province ever decline our opportunity?
well, we have previously taxed to improve the kayak rack for $20,000, so that is sitting in surplus reserves. So our plan was, if we were unsuccessful with the grant, then we could fix the kayak rack, because that actually is a source of revenue and is very, we have a waiting list for people to get space, so this was a design, design that would be larger. And then the playground, there was fundraising done, so we have about $40,000 sitting that we could do the playground as well. So I think at a minimum, we would do the kayak rack
Okay,
and the playground.
so the thinking would be we get our sad decline eventually. We're into spring, summer, busy period. We take things apart in the fall, build it in the early winter. Happy birthday, Lions Bay. Here's 2 pieces of the park bench. And would we do that ourselves, or are we outsourcing, or a combo?
We would look to outsource.
That works?
Yeah.
Okay. So that'd be a short execution period. Okay, what?
I mean, the room is what do we do about the washrooms? So,
Well, not part of this. I have a strong personal view on this. I know from the Beach Park Committee and the allocations that we've done for the grant application, the washrooms had a $350,000 price tag. I could never accept that number. I would take it to the IC and say, find a way to do this for a number.
okay, if that's the path you go, I know at least one qualified architect in the village, and some designers in the village who are prepared to do pro bono work. I think we should look at doing it through some sort of volunteer effort and see if we can get it done in the community.
You'll be the first call when I hear the good news or the bad news. Because if it's the good news, then we still need the plans. If it's the bad news, then they'll be doing it pro bono. Okay? Okay, so thank you very much, CFO. So that you did a twofer on this one. So I think on this one, you've got your guidance. So when you present our sheet next time around, will we be going to readings then?
No,
Readings first
first meeting in April would be first
in
and
April?
second
Okay,
reading
so
of
it'll
the
be
budget.
the triple final next time. So you'll have this cleaned up, you'll winnow the number down to circa 508, and there we go. If there's no more discussion, I'll put forward the motion to receive. Can I have a seconder? Any further discussion? All in favor? Good, thank you. Thank you very much to staff for a very fulsome report on a wide variety of topics, more than just budget. Which brings us to the EOC grant, which is being covered off by Mr. Whitney.
AKA CAO de Jean.
AKA, no, page 55.
So, Robert has been working on this application, which needs to go in next week, at the latest. Still waiting on a couple of things that he's investigating, but sort of got a tentative budget for replacement of some purchase of some equipment and IT related things that the EOC would need. Some tablets, keyboards, a printer, and things are going more in terms of online centralized processing for EMDC. Got a couple of laptops. There's a few things that we're showing as things that we have already purchased for staff in terms of the laptops that we've had to buy already, and we're showing it as these things would be contributed to the project in terms of having to pull together an EOC. So we're still looking at potential upgrades to phone system for that building and some cabinets. Got radio system upgrades. All in all, right now, we're looking at about $15,000. The max is 25 under the grant. We're showing sort of our own in kind of about 7, and depending on the additional stuff, we might hit 20 potentially. That's how it's looking, and but we need to have council's buy-in on the support for the grant, as we've got to get that in before the next council meeting. And this is to help ensure that we have a fully functioning EOC that's capable of responding in the event of an emergency.
Thank you very much, CEO to John. So the recommendation from staff is that the council resolution for the EOC grant is as in the recommendation, which is also in the staff report. So let's presume I just read that. I'll put that forward as a motion. Can I have a secondary? Thank you, Jamie. Any discussion on this? Any questions for staff?
Yeah, but this is 100% grant, so there's no contribution.
100%?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that.
Thank you. Even better.
That was not a
You know, if you said that first, we could be even faster. Thank you. All right. I'll call the motion. All in favor? Thank you. Everybody's on side. Next one, which is on page 63, is the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Award Committee Terms of Reference. And the recommendation is that the amended Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Award Committee Terms of Reference be adopted. I'll put that forward as a motion. Do I have a seconder? Any discussion? Councillor Abbott? I think this is where we left this. We could have done this last time, I think.
Small change,
Yep.
we agreed to last
Just,
meeting.
smaller but better. Okay, good. Any discussion on this? No, call motion.
Was this-
Oh,
Yeah, actually, I did write something down. So, I had suggested, when it came to the voting for the nominee, or for the award, that if it looked like my vote would be a tie, I wouldn't vote. Is that appropriate? Because what it reads here is, if there is a tie, my vote
Double counts.
double counts. Whereas for other stuff during the meeting, I will vote. But in that actual situation where I can see it's evenly, I already decide who I think, and that would make it evenly split, I would just not vote.
I don't remember that suggestion.
You were
I
here.
wasn't here.
Yeah, you went here. That's what I actually suggested. It's not the way it was written, but that was what I suggested.
So, yeah, you'll notice that the 527 is in red, and the other things that are here in blue, because I came along after the fact, after she'd done this,
Okay.
and suggested that this be done on one, and you had said that.
Right.
So, yeah, I suppose that's an alternative way of going about it.
Yeah.
Certainly absolves the chairperson, who is the council person on the committee, of any possibility of.
Yeah, if it being me, I wouldn't like to vote to make it a tie and then say, oh, by the way, mine counts twice.
Mhm.
And that's just not, that's not the kind of committee this is, right?
how come I don't have power like that?
So you'd rather it say, in the event of a tie, the chair shall not vote.
Yeah.
You've thought about this a while?
Well, that's what, yeah, I did last meeting and I suggested it.
Okay.
And I just forgot that I actually marked up that question. I don't, is that appropriate? Can we do that? I mean,
So that's a resident
In
call.
the event of a potential tie? Because if it was
Well,
a tie and he
yeah,
doesn't
potential-
vote, then
potential-
it stays a tie.
Yeah, you wouldn't know if it was a tie until you voted, but.
I would vote
Well,
last.
he's last.
Yeah.
And then I would know when I'm about to vote because we made my decision.
Right.
And then I would just.
So is there, in the event of a potential, or do we have to say anything?
Well, my question is, if I then don't vote, am I abstaining and
Yeah.
counts as a vote? I mean, how does it
Count-
count?
Counts as a vote in favor of whatever the motion was.
There's
So-
no
No,
motion.
no, it's almost like voting by not voting.
No, but there is no motion in this circumstance because we're all discussing who the
You
nominee
still have
is.
to,
And
any
then-
committee,
and then-
the only way you act is by putting forward a motion, seconding it, and passing it
Yes.
and making a resolution. Notwithstanding the fact that it's just a recommendation to council,
Mhm.
but it's still a resolution from the committee, one way or the other.
Well, instead of having a vote, can you just go by consensus? Does that not?
We do.
But then
Let's talk about
But
it.
if
if
there
it's
is no
consensus-
consensus.
There's no consensus.
But, yeah, but if it's not a regular vote, but it's just consensus, then the laws of abstention.
Don't apply because there's no motion yet. So that's, I could manage it that way myself.
Sorry, I'm losing you because.
What-
I'm losing me too.
What Fred's saying, what I'm trying to say is, so this committee, so there's a bunch of nominations, everyone's gone away and done their own little matrix and decided, and they all motivate for who they want, right? So there's no motion yet. If everyone picked the same person, then we just put a motion forward and all pick the same person, job done. If it's going around the room and it's evenly split, right?
Mhm.
And then I could then not bother putting my opinion forward, and then just suggest, based on what I just heard, it sounds like the agreement is, or the majority would like to go with X candidate, and then I just hold back with my opinion. And then I put that forward as a motion, takes it away, so I can actually manage it without
So
changing.
what if you
my-
got 5 people, including you?
Yep.
And 2 of them want one person, 2 of them want the other person.
Then I'm voting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you will vote?
No, I won't vote to cause it. We don't always have everyone agree. Anyway,
Gotcha.
Maybe you don't need to bother changing it.
Maybe, I'll just take it right out.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I was gonna
Just
suggest,
figure it
yeah.
out.
And I'll work it out,
Just-
yeah.
there you
And I'll
go.
promise not to bring you a contingent circumstance.
Negotiation.
And then we don't have to know what happens, we can just.
You'll just get a clean motion.
recommendation.
Those poor little nominees.
Alright,
Well, should we leave in
All right.
the following paragraph ends with, but the dissenting views shall be ministered for council,
sure,
or not?
if you want it.
Are you good with that?
Sure.
I mean, you're gonna run your meeting the way you want to anyhow, so it's not minute.
If you're bringing it to council saying, you know, the
I'm
majority
gonna bring you a report in.
chose this candidate, you know, there was some contrary opinion in favor of this person for whatever reason, et cetera.
Right.
All right, so just to the school testing question, Councillor Abbott, you're good with those suggested changes?
Yes.
Call a motion, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, CAO, for that. All right, the Public Works Manager on the PRDs. Recommendation.
So this is the engineering for the 3 PRV station project. Essentially modifying the original AECom drawings, project management and contract administration for this project.
All right, just so we can get going on this, so the motion is before you. I will put forward that motion, get it a seconder, and we'll go to discussion. Thank you. Okay, any discussion, anything more you'd like to add on this Public Works Manager?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
All right. Any other discussion from the members?
Couple of questions. On the question statement, maybe. So there was 4 bidders. There was the clear winner.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see the numbers. Oh,
sorry.
no.
All right,
We'll see the numbers.
any other questions, Councillor? Any other questions, Councillor Abbott?
So this is a question that's come up once or twice, and I think Councillor Barmer brought it up last time. In these agreements, I now started looking for it. It never seems to say whether these are fixed price or reimbursable agreements. They never seem to say anything about maximum upset sum or fixed price or. And I actually read the agreement, that's some time I played, searching for where am I going to find this word? Where does it tell me that this is a maximum upset sum or fixed price? And it is, it talks about it, and it talks about maybe using the CCDC contract. If you tell me what CCDC contract number it was, that might answer the question. But it never says that here, and it never said that in the one we had last time either. This agreement. And you last time you told us was a maximum upset sum. I think it answers Councillor Barmer's question, but it's.
Yeah, it's not typical language in municipal contracts.
I don't know what form of contract you've agreed to. It just seems odd for that not to be in, if that's the expectation.
That's the price to do the work that was requested. Now, if they have a deviation, if there's a change order,
If you approve a change order, that's fine.
yeah, but otherwise, based on what we've asked for, that's the maximum price. It will come in for that unless there's a change order.
And when they invoice us, they show percent complete. They get an invoice and sometimes there's different sections, and they'll just say we're 20% complete here. That's how it was with the AECom, with the Industra.
Contracts, I can't, any agreement I've seen that doesn't actually state that clearly. Anyway, it doesn't get you in trouble, that's what people used to working to, I guess we'll just leave it, if that's the standard agreement, so I'd be surprised if it doesn't say that.
That's what I'm used to.
Are we good with that? I mean, I believe in short words, it's the way it is. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Did I put forward the motion?
Sure.
Yep, thank you. Got lost in myself there. All right, any more discussion? No, call a motion, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Which brings us to the CAO on wood burning apparatuses.
Does it
Because we amended the agenda at the front.
I have a draft report that I've spoken to Metro staff about. Basically incorporates the requests that we had for Metro in terms of delaying our ultimate compliance beyond 2025 for 7 years, so it goes to 2032. I had a couple of questions for Metro staff with respect to the phases, because there's 3 phases to the program. The first phase is effective May 2021 and involves restrictions on indoor wood burning during the warm season. So essentially May to September. My comment to Metro staff was that it's not always warm during those months. Sometimes we have January. And so does that mean that nobody's allowed to burn, or are they only allowed to burn if it's cold, or if they have a compliant appliance? He wasn't quite sure. He was going to get back to me. Phase 2 in September of 2022, declaration of use of best burning practices in all areas, registration of clean wood burning appliances within urban areas. So that is sort of the big push to have people, it's part and parcel of the education campaign by Metro, and asking people to sign up and register their appliances. It's a 3-year process for everybody else to 2025. It's an education piece. We would be part of that. So people will be expected to begin signing up if they are, inclined, and there's a declaration that they're going to be asked to sign saying they're aware of and employ best practices when it comes to burning. And then phase 3 is the restrictions on the use of non-registered devices in urban areas by 2025, for us 2032. So that's proposed to, that's going to go forward to the Climate Action Committee meeting for Metro on March 13th. And he was going to send me a copy of the draft bylaw, which I think they're still working on. But there is acknowledgement about working with Lions Bay to do a concentrated educational approach, so that by 2032 we're achieving full compliance with bylaw requirements.
All right, thank you.
Question?
Yep.
Do they have materials for educational purposes for how people should be managing their device, whether it's compliant or not? Like I'm addressing your educational piece.
Do you mean the cleaning maintenance kind of things on an annual basis?
No, I was thinking more of the actual burning of whatever product they're burning, because you can burn it clean, or you can make a smooth fire out of it.
I think they do. And I know that they intend to be educating the public on that very topic.
So we have all those materials that we could disseminate.
Oh yeah, they state the concentrated effort, particularly with respect to working with us on
We
education.
will be the test market. Thank you very much for making that call. It gives them a whole week to massage it before my hand shoots up all the time. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll receive that.
On your first question, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that warm season ban was an all-out ban.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression from you.
Yeah, it was fixed dates, and it didn't make any difference what kind of clients you had.
Yeah. So, yeah, he didn't really have answers to the
That's
questions.
certainly where it was written the first time around, but I have any drafts and revisions that's gone through it.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know how everybody feels about that.
Actually, since we're here, I'll be representing you week Friday. How does everybody feel about that? I mean, it seems to me, as the CA always said, we get some very cold Mays and some very cold Junes, and it can be cold in September as well too. It seems to me really nice to have if you live in a balmy climate, but we don't. Yes.
I would think, if they would agree, I think, I really hope they would agree that it should be at the discretion according to the temperature and whatnot, and also how dry it is. For example, like we have a shake roof. If we were going to light a fire in May on a day that's got a chill in the morning, but we have a bone dry roof, it just doesn't make sense. So I think a certain amount of common sense should be employed rather than sort of an arbitrary demand that would be absolutely no burning in May. I would prefer some leeway on that.
I think that, you know, to your point, in terms of wildfire considerations, that's not what they don't have that purview, right? Their only purview is the climate and pollution. So I don't think that they could do anything to take those things into consideration. And relying upon the public to exercise common sense, that could go anywhere.
That's not bylawable.
No. So, yeah, I mean, short of implementing a, you know, if the temperature falls below X, you cannot burn, unless the temperature falls below X, you cannot burn from May to September, would be one way of providing an exception. And when he gets back to me tomorrow, I could make that pitch. I don't know how that will go over, but it seems to me that it does seem a little bit draconian to say, you know, because you're encouraging people to spend all this money to convert their appliances, but they're not gonna know, oh, but I only get to use it 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, I know.
Regardless of the temperature.
Yeah, it's 7 degrees in September.
I'm gonna take the lead, negotiate on the part, or move it to different dates. Okay. Thank you, received. And next one again, since you've got the floor, we'd asked you just a while before your furlough to survey and appraise the 2 road ends. How far along are we with that?
I've got a topographical survey for Ocean View Road End. And that one, basically, it's more complicated than your run-of-the-mill road end because of its size and configuration and the terrain. It's quite steep, and you know, the opportunity exists because it is quite large to do something other than simply split it, you know, create one lot or at the most 2 lots. Can't really do more than 2 lots for that if you're just going to create lots. But if you kept it as 1 lot but made it a strata lot, you could do a number of different things. You could keep it simple and do like a triplex or a fourplex, or you could actually even do, just based on sort of rough numbers, you could do like 3 units on one side and 3 units on the other side, so you could do like 6 townhouses at about 2,000 square feet each for a driving garage. You could do more of a condo type thing, where you've got parking on, you know, drive-in parking, and it's all underground, and then you go up to your various units. You could potentially squeeze in maybe 8, maybe 10. So there's a few different options in terms of the way that it could go, and I need to explore a little bit further in terms of some of the pros and cons, and sort of even get a sort of rough number kind of basis on before I go to an appraisal, because the appraiser's going to need to know what use am I appraising for. I don't want to give too many options, or that appraisal's going to be extremely expensive. So I'm open to hearing from council in terms of your thoughts on that kind of thing. The other one, down at Brunswick, I sent off just basically a rough preliminary layout for where that fits, and asked for a quote for a reference plan for road closure and topographical, and I'm just waiting to receive that. So once I have that, then I will request an appraisal on that, and then come back to council after that to provide an update as to where we're at with that one. And I want to get to a more defined place for the ocean view.
With the appraisal?
Before putting it out for appraisal.
Okay,
I
'cause
want
it's
to
a
do some homework.
It's an odd lot.
It's an odd lot, but I think I can narrow down the options a little bit and get some rough numbers that
Thank
you
you.
can decide what makes sense, and maybe even come back to council before I go to the appraiser.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Birmingham.
I was just wondering if we could seek out proposals for that, for those areas, particularly Ocean View, for example. Could we seek out developer proposals?
For the ocean view one? Yeah, could do something like that. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about a few different things, and that's one option. I think we should have a good idea though before doing that,
Okay.
what we think the land is worth, and what we think it's worth in one use versus another use versus another use.
How do you deal with the zoning? Because we have to change the zoning, right?
Yeah, so when we do the
Chicken
road
and egg.
closure by, automatically under the zoning bylaw, it's created as an RS1 lot, so then we would have to do a rezoning.
Rezone.
So we would have a public hearing,
Yeah.
and people would have an opportunity to provide their thoughts, comments. If it's simply creating two separate lots, then they would simply be created as two separate lots, and there would be no rezoning.
What was the public consultation part again?
If we have a public hearing, if we create anything other than RS1 lots, you know, if we created a multifamily,
Oh, yeah.
you know, whether it's 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, whatever,
Single
it
family,
would
okay.
require rezoning.
So that'd only be applicable to Ocean View. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. Any more questions on this one? I think this is a work in progress. Probably for the next couple of months, so give you time to get back to us. Good. Thank you, and I think the Public Works Manager and the CFO answered item 6, 7, 8, which was the beach renovation plan B. Yep.
Sorry, do you want to just do a motion to receive those two verbal reports from you?
Motion to receive those two, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Call motion, done, thanks, received. Sorry, that was fast, Carla.
It's fine.
Okay, which brings us up to the council reports. If I've got this right, the mayor has none. Councillor Barmayer, I know you had something on your EV.
Yeah, you said you could pull it up on the screen.
I will pour it up on the screen, just give me a second. All right, it is such a cool picture.
You guys know chess, right? It's a little, Right.
Okey-dokey. Come on, baby. Carlo?
Great picture.
Oh, there it
There's
is.
the sea sky.
Hang on. I found it.
Alright.
Ooh.
That was zoom out a bit.
How's that for cool?
Just hit that where it says.
Carla, come on over here. You see?
There should be 6 pages to this.
The pages keep going.
Yeah.
You see, Carla? Oh, yeah.
Maybe we gotta download it. Go back.
It's
Or
down.
is it? Oh, there you
Yeah.
go.
Just need to zoom out. There you go.
Ah, there we go. How cool is that?
Where is it?
I can
Australia.
Steer, here, I can steer this. As I guess I'll work through the pages. Mess this up. This is quite a slow jug. I don't know what I did. Oh, wrong direction. Sorry, guys.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. So this is not Unreal. This is a bit of a village hall is in the sky back there.
Well, I mean, you
The
can see.
concept drawing, but the idea is to
This,
show.
this is pretty good. I mean, we know what the other part looks like, but that looks
Right,
pretty
so
cool.
a bit of a reconfigured bench. There's some of that civil works there is a little bit dated and could use some help, right? And the idea was that we try and create 4 spots because there's currently 3 unofficial spots, and I know there's consistently 2 residents that park there. So we definitely don't want to take away any spaces by adding a space. In fact, that contention should sort of go away if there is any. How do I scroll down? Here.
Well, that's just part of the,
That's the graphic that the vendors offered. We could put on the actual units themselves and make it Lions Bay specific. This kind of shows the current situation with blocks and a more intricate covered seating area with placards, relatively underutilized, so condense it down to something smaller, sort of a from to. This is the existing plan view, and then the plan view modified with 4 spots and the station going there. So again, these are just concept drawings so we can communicate, you know, the idea and get everyone to understand what's being suggested.
There's a concern about the horrible transformer, it's just that little block there, that's all it's been.
Yeah, this is a conceptual depiction, so there'd be the dispenser here and then the transformer there. It may not look exactly like that, depending on what kind of configuration we're choosing. And once we work with BC Hydro to truly understand what the transformation needs to be and how big it has to be. But this would be close to good enough to support a grant. The only thing that would be missing would be a single line diagram for the electrical and some specs on the equipment. So then this would essentially support a grant application. There's really not much left to do until the grant comes up, and then we can talk about, you know, the budget piece. But I think it's reasonable, and I just wanted to share that for information.
Good. Excellent. Pictures look great. Thank you very much. Anything more, Councilor Barman? Great. You tossed me my mouse, so I'll say goodbye to the station. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was just lovely. Okay, and any other council member have anything they want to add? All right, let's see. All right, committees none, emergency service none, resolutions none. On page 95, started the intermunicipal business license stuff, and it goes on, and CAO, do you want to add anything more, or should we go right to it?
So I'll start by saying that this lengthy report was provided as a template that I worked with. The template was provided by the City of Vancouver. We kindly shared it with all the participating jurisdictions. Some of the information in the report was deemed to be mandatory, and they wanted to make sure that everybody was putting the same stuff out to their councils. Some of it was just informational, some of it you may have gleaned from my first report on the topic. But in any event, it's all here, including some FAQs about how things work from a regulatory perspective that they had put together. The basics of the scheme are found at page 100. Vancouver being the licensing authority, and the annual license fee for a company of $155 plus vehicle fees of $150 for each vehicle, 30 for zero emission vehicles and 30 for zero emission vehicles and 0 for wheelchair accessible vehicles. Data sharing is going to be through the province, because the province, through the Passenger Transportation Board, is already requiring these companies to provide their data, and so the working group is currently negotiating with the province for access to the data for our purposes, as opposed to making the ride-sharing companies provide the data twice. So a bit of streamlining in terms of that. The costs that are set out are based upon Vancouver's estimate of what their expected setup costs are going to be in the first year. They listed $140,000, and included in that is a half-time licensed clerk. In the legal section on page 105, you'll see the rationale for why we have in our agenda tonight at the beginning the opportunity for those who consider themselves to be affected by these bylaws to have an opportunity to be heard. And the recommendation is that that opportunity be provided again at the end of this meeting, where we have the public participation part at the end, as well as at the beginning of the next meeting, where this bylaw will come back for council consideration of adoption if council proceeds with getting it through readings tonight.
So you're in the village update article?
I've covered a small piece, but it's no more than 2 sentences on it. I can make reference to this.
Well,
Actually, I guess we should make reference that
says here
we should
that
appear to oppose.
Yep.
Okay.
we put it in here with this link to this village update. This is,
I mean, make it part of the resolution.
you already have it. Staff will post information in the village update, drawing attention to this report, information along with the opportunities, whatever.
Actually, Peter,
Peter's initials behind it. Page 12. Page 12, Peter. Oh, sorry,
my piece, relative to me, my
Oh,
piece in
six.
the
page
village.
106, page 12.
Nobody's ever going to find my piece of this because they're covered by 20 different topics. Should we write a?
Yeah, no, I'll do a
Thank you.
separate thing specific to
Okay.
the progress of this map and the opportunity for people to come to the next meeting.
And I'll delete part of that. Okay, thank you very much for that. So,
Any questions about
let's
any aspect of
let's
this?
ask questions first and then go to the motions. Yes.
One question, I don't know if it relates to what we're dealing with on this, but when it comes to fares and everything, are they regulated as well, or are they up to the carrier?
I think there was something about no fare can be less than there's like a basic starting fare for a taxi.
Yeah.
As soon as you get in the cab, there's that, and that's the minimum.
Oh, is that what it meant? Not the meter fare, because I read that made no sense to me. It sounded like you had to be more expensive than a taxi.
Yeah, no, it's just basically that basic fee. When you get in that taxi, the meter starts at whatever it is, $3.50 or what have you. So the fare can't be any less than that.
And all the ride-hailing ones would add on to that, to their rate, or the same as a taxi?
Oh yeah, they'll have their own rates.
But other than the startup thing, it's unregulated?
I'm not 100% sure as to whether or not that aspect is regulated by the Passenger Transportation Board. Where's the FAQ? I think the FAQ. This is
Yeah, maybe it's not a fair question, because it seems more focused on the municipal interaction with the TMS system.
Yeah, I can't remember whether that was an aspect that is regulated by the Passenger Transportation Board or not. It's not here in the FAQ.
You're asking whether they're, what's behind the question? I'm trying to understand.
Well, I think my main key, or my key point of the whole thing is the ride-hailing thing is an alternative to the taxi systems and everything, where the taxis have their costs and everything with licensing and all that is quite high. And so I was wondering if we approve all this, are we making Uber and Flight on a par with the taxi company, so there's no savings at all? Or
No, not at all, yeah.
No, so on page 131, they have there's a supplement of provincial regulations, and table 2 shows license condition fare rates, TMS, total fare may not be lower than taxi flag drop rate, that's what I'm referring to. And then taxi and limousine rates set by Passenger Transportation Board unchanged, but I take it from this that the ride-hailing companies can set their own fares. They just can't set it lower than the taxi flag rate.
Good. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Thanks.
What makes the ride hailing attractive is that you generally know upfront what you're gonna pay for your ride. Tells you,
All right.
so it estimates your ride up front and you know what you're gonna pay to get home.
You
So
get
they
it
can't
on
take the long way.
your device.
You get it on your device and the fare is basically set, that's how that interaction works.
Gives you an estimate though, doesn't it?
It's, well,
Depending on traffic, I've had it
yeah,
rides where I thought in Portland I was gonna pay X, and I ended up paying X point plus, 50%, and there was a lot of traffic.
X square.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, there was on page 129, it talks about so a municipality can do if someone's breaking the bylaws and suspended. And that
Yeah,
sounds
so-
awfully messy. If one municipality, and then
Yeah,
you're supposed to go back if they can.
So there's an enforcement protocol that's being developed by the working group. So everybody has, in principle agreed to sign on to it, so that it's basically, there's an escalating kind of thing. If you've got an issue with somebody, you've got to advise everybody, and so pressure can be brought to bear by everybody, because it's one license. So if it gets to the point where it's kind of like, you know what, we're gonna suspend you, they're not gonna be able to operate anywhere. So it's extremely severe.
That's what I was suggesting,
Yeah.
is basically there's 25 other people that might have a different opinion of the guy, right?
Yeah, so there's a protocol being developed so that there's no rash actions that are taken. It's all gonna be very gradual enforcement, or gradual increase in enforcement measures.
As an aside, you've been dealing with it already, is there anything we can do to encourage people, someone in the village to take up this enterprise business? So we have pickups in Lions Bay?
No,
I know we didn't see it as a place, but...
You've stolen my thunder from Friday. They devoted a paragraph to this. I reached out to both Looper and Lyft, and they'll share the responses, which were entirely similar with council, that they can't find drivers here, period. And so without the expectation of a client receiving a confirmation of a ride, they're just going to build their way into it. To be fair, both the township and the city of Langley do not have pickups there either.
For a different reason.
Yet.
Yet.
That's meant to just happen organically.
They'll just grow into their business model. I think that certainly from my mayor colleagues, they know that in other cities where this is done, having this kind of control over the providers, the fees tend to go up, and the fees all tend to go to the municipalities. So, future revenue source somewhere down the road. Okay, any more questions for the CAO? All good? All right, so per the recommendation, the bylaws are here. And this is a two-parter, intermunicipal TNS business license agreement bylaw number 5, sub 2, 2020, that intermunicipal TNS business license agreement bylaw 572, 2020 be introduced and given 3 readings, and that persons who consider they are affected by 572 and 573 be given an opportunity to make representations to council during the public participation and public questions and comments portions of the council meeting today on March 3rd and during the public participation portion on March 17, 2020, prior to consideration of adoption of the bylaws by council. I'll put forward the motion. Can I have a seconder? Last chance on discussion. These will be 3.
Is it 3 readings tonight, or is it 2 tonight and 1 the following?
3 tonight, 1 more.
So that,
Adoption.
adoption on the 17th, if council so desires, is so that it's in place for April 1st.
And that's the pressure that the mayors are all under, which is really the CAOs. Okay, so we'll be going for 3 readings. So calling the question, all in favor of the 3 readings, thank you, we're done. And on the part 2 of this, the intermunicipal TNS business license bylaw number 573, 2020, that intermunicipal TNS business license bylaw number 573, 2020 be introduced and given 3 readings, and that persons who consider they are affected by bylaws 572 and 573 be given an opportunity to make representations to council during the public participation and public questions and comments portions of the council meeting on March 3rd and during the public participation period on March 17 prior to consider adoption of the bylaws by council. I will put forward the motion for 3 meetings. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Any discussion on this? Call a motion. All in favor? Thank you. Which closes that part, and we go to correspondence on page 133, and leading that parade will be Councillor Bain.
Yes, sir. G1, we have something on Wilderness Committee Representative. Got a promotion here, and the pipeline and activism towards it. I guess they want us to support their field work transmission pipeline primarily.
apolitical here, received.
Good. And over the page, we have something from the Alzheimer's Society, different issues and all this, sure what the walk in the box idea is. Showing compassion for those who are struggling with the ailment and care for them. And I would think that would be something we probably want to do individually if we wanted to, so we would receive it.
Thank you.
And we've got, that's D3, we're going from the house on to that we're into residential. Next issue here of Green City Climate Emergency Newsletter, February 8, 2020. They're wanting our support, and they're asking for us to make a declaration of a climate emergency as a first step. I don't know, anybody wish to weigh in on that, or?
I just wanted to maybe put some language around what it means to declare a climate emergency as a municipality, just so that we can be comfortable with the definition of what that means and what that's meant to do.
I think that that's really something that needs to be fleshed out by the committee.
Yeah.
We need to, and I picked up some ideas when I was at the CAO conference on things that other people are doing. There was some debate about climate emergency versus no climate emergency. Regardless, there's a number of different things that different people are doing. Some of them I think that we can take a look at ourselves, but I think that the whole scope of the issue and what falls within actionable items that Lions Bay can consider would form part of a recommendation that the committee will come back to council with. And that may include declaring a climate emergency, and what does that mean? And what actions should be taken as a result? What resources would be devoted to addressing that? Because if you're saying there's an emergency, you need to presumably address resources to handle that emergency. So I think that that's really quite a bit of work that needs to be done by the committee in terms of assessing what does that look like, and what kind of recommendations come back to council. That would be my suggestion.
I think that's along the flavor of, I think our last council meeting. I think we're under pressure to concur, but I believe this is one of the items for the Lions Bay Climate Action Committee to decide where they want to go and what their recommendation is, put their own
Yeah,
stamp
I
on
don't know if we need to wait for a committee necessarily to be comfortable with the language of what it means to declare a climate emergency. I think that's the key piece, is that it's a phrase that municipalities are hanging onto to band together to cause for action. So that's why they're using that language, that's why they're using those words. And I think it's for us to interpret what that means for us locally, right? I'm just saying, let's not be afraid of this climate emergency terminology. It's not as inflammatory as it may come across initially. It is acknowledging things like climate change is real. That's something that that statement would acknowledge, that we're comfortable with the fact that global warming is a real thing as a community. We recognize that, and that not enough is being done. That's essentially what it is. It's not some huge call to action. It's not asking us to throw buckets of money at it. It's just acknowledging as a community that we have an issue.
Well, I think it means different things to different people, and it means different things to different municipalities.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
So I think that is something that
But
the committee needs to look at.
I'm just trying to color in the language so that as a council we can get comfortable with what those words mean, so that we're not scared of adopting those words at some point. They're not meant to be inflammatory or scary. They're meant to pull a group of people together in a cause for action.
And that's probably a good discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I see the word emergency, I'm used to emergency word.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid.
Don't like to minimize the importance of the word.
Yeah,
Nor
exactly.
do I want to misguide anybody that we're saying, everything's on fire, we gotta do something right now. Maybe we don't. Maybe we do need to do some things. But it's a difficult time, I think, in society right now, that if somebody object to the climate emergency concept, first thing that person will hear back is, well, you just declined it from there. And we get into this name calling and minimizing, and I think I'm not comfortable with where it goes, because I know what people can do when they take meaning into something you may not intend, because you're not being careful of how you say it. And so, to your point, I agree wholeheartedly, this needs a good discussion.
But I think it should be chewed through committee first and then make its way up to,
I think that this is something that,
it's a foundation
maybe
piece.
the response on this item of the correspondence should be referred to Lions Bay Climate Action Committee.
Perfect.
There we go.
Good.
Thank you.
You have a copy of that? Okay,
She stopped.
now we go over to our MP's comment. He's got great enthusiasm, a recent change in the center of labor market information. I think this is for information only. She market just received.
Thank you.
And over the page, we've got something from Mayor Darrell Walker, the office of the mayor of White Rock. I was reading this, I wasn't sure what he was after, but then I think it's the second paragraph, essentially, whereas strata corporations in British Columbia have seen insurance premiums swell up to several %, strata owners similarly had deductibles rise exponentially due to, in part, to climate change related risk aversion by their insurers. Somebody else can get in on it. They're looking for an endorsement to the 2020 LMLGA conference. And if anyone's going, I guess they could speak up on our behalf. Are you heading that way? Receive?
Okay. Thank you.
And on the page, we have R1, for wood burning. Carl brings up some points. I think he's mostly concerned about the amount of smoke. This comment in the middle says people still think wood smoke is benign and Lions Bay needs some improvement. I don't think we're going in that direction. I think because we're getting an exemption doesn't necessarily mean that we're not concerned about the amount of smoke people produce. And I think what we were talking about earlier would indicate that we are concerned with it. So we just receive this, or does it maybe reply?
Well, he does ask the question, I believe, somewhere in there. There's always a question, however.
There was a question mark.
Doesn't seem to be a question.
Wasn't it a question?
I'd be interested to know which of you, after reading, is benign that Lions Bay needs no improvement. I will walk that slippery slope and reply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And R2, Angela and Matthew Klaus. Not pronunciating it any better. I think this one's being dealt with. Mayor's answered. It looks like it's, well, I thought it was a nice reply. It's in touch, but other than that, proceed. Or do you have further comments?
Thank you very much, Councillor Bean. I think that the issue is, and it would not be dissimilar than the Ocean View property too. We have a village asset that we're considering developing. The Ocean View property, because of its length along the Ocean View Road, would probably disrupt not less than 4 residences who have a higher ground opportunity if their view would be not as nice as it is now. So it's not dissimilar here to the Ocean View, or sorry, to the Brunswick property, where 2 neighbors had our right-of-way in between, and now there's the consideration of a property. So I think that I did advise the classes, and I will make some mention in the village update this week where we are with our surveys and that. I think that the public can come forward as they have the opportunity to do this, and voice their displeasure for what we're contemplating doing. But I think for me, I mean, I really do appreciate their situation here. And I've responded to them, echoing what I believe is the case that council is, but unless the council members tell me otherwise, I believe it is our intention to be moving towards sale of these assets. I mean, that's why we're doing what we're doing. Am I reading the council correct? I'll take silence as yes.
I think that the layout of the proposed lot may be capable of being done in such a way that it won't provide that much of an impact on either of
The Brunswick property?
either of the Brunswick properties on either side. And a house to be developed on that lot could potentially have its view corridors limited to sort of basically right out here, but not really extend past the word beach on this map, so that it's not being built in front of the class's residence. If it's over here, this whole side of their property is a cedar hedge that's, 8 feet, 10 feet high. And their house is oriented with these views out toward the word Brunswick Beach. So if the house is built in here and doesn't exceed past the point where their property takes a jog, then there's a potential that it may not impact their views much, if at all, and orients out this way. This is the back of the house at 17. Their enjoyment of the ocean views are oriented this way. So there's a potential opportunity to come up with something that doesn't impact either of those neighbors.
The setback averaging,
Pardon me?
the setback averaging rule fix that or not?
I don't know if the setback averaging rule would be applicable in that circumstance. I'd have to go back and reread the wording of that carefully. There's some limiting language that goes with that, so I don't think it would be applicable in the circumstances. But I think that it's something that has the potential to not be too impactful.
Okay, well,
Can I just get back to your earlier question, which you got no answer and just get bad faces? Did the previous council take a resolution on a particular number of road ends that we'd try and market? And were they listed? No.
Didn't look at that. Previous council did not look at
Did
that.
not look at that.
No. Just basically the 52 Brunswick property. Did talk about the ocean view.
Yeah.
That was always sort of something that was under consideration. There was some talk about potentially developing it in-house and for housing for fire department.
And obviously the Kelvin Grove one as well.
And then there's the Kelvin Grove one that was
So
discussed.
does this council have to sort of make a recommendation to do this? Do you believe or?
This council will decide whether or not to proceed with the one.
And so we'll do all of these on a case-by-case basis.
Pardon me?
So there will be a motion that comes to council, we'll do them
Oh,
on
definitely.
a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, so we're just, my instructions from the strategic
As well as
planning
a
was.
global thing done by the previous council.
No, we're gonna take it piecemeal and I'll get the surveys and appraisals and then bring it back to council, and council can provide direction on what to do. You might provide the direction that we've not voting for.
these two properties in question are not as simple as the current one and the previous one, which are more plain. And these, in the case of the Highview Ocean View, there's a unique opportunity there. On the Brunswick one, I think as the CAO says, maybe there's an opportunity there to both get what we want, that we sell the property, but the future home is not on the sight line. So I think he's got his work to do to take away, and we'll decide one-on-one when we come forward.
And something like that could be addressed potentially with governance.
So, two things. On this one, I have circulated to the executive and to council that Belcarra faces a similar situation to us. They have 31 rodettes.
They've already
Yeah.
communicated with us.
All right, and so they also have the issues with block use. I will respond to the classes again, as I said, I'd keep them posted. Next one up.
Next one, we have R3 about dog bags and collections. That one's been bouncing back and forth between the writer, the mayor, and the public works manager. I think it's all the announcements, so we just haven't received. And the last one, R4, noise reduction. We were just speaking of that earlier. It's been a response, it's been answered and received, I understand.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the correspondence, which brings us to the two-part the new business. I don't think there is any. And then the public questions and comments. Looking at the gallery, anything there? Nope. Take that as a no. And also, if you're in the gallery or you're visibly looking around the side of the building, there's an opportunity for persons to consider they affected by either the two intermunicipal business opportunities, 572 and 573. You can make your representation to council now. There being none, we are moving to the closed council meeting. And CAO, are there any additions?
I don't think so.
Thank you very much. So the proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public are Citizen of the Year and Citizen Distinction Awards. The 2020 preliminary budget. Okay, that the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Discussion regarding the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements is held in open meeting. And the last item is observations from the February ESS meetings. So if you are leaving, then we say goodbye and thank you for coming. And that the meeting be closed to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the committee charter, number 91, A, B, E, and N. Council does not anticipate reconvening the open meeting for any purpose other than to adjourn the agenda and report out to the protocol. If that's satisfactory to everybody, can I have a show of hands? Thank you, unanimous. And we will. Alrighty, thank you, Carla. We are live at 20 to 11, and we are reporting out from the closed section of council into the open session. And council is reporting out that of the topics discussed, the list of Citizen of the Year and Citizen of Distinction Award nominees were received and discussed. A decision as to the successful recipients will be made March the 17th, and the awards will be given during Volunteer Week. And with that, that concludes reporting out, and can I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Good, we are done. Carlos?